all, and welcome to today's Charity Recruit virtual boardroom. As most of you will know, I'm Emily from Charity Recruit, and it's great to have you joining us today. One of the themes that comes up time and time again when I'm having conversations with charity leaders at the moment is that capacity. Teams are stretched, workloads are growing, and lots of organizations are trying to balance all these different demands around time and resource. So we thought it'd be really useful to put on a session around that topic and make it a practical and honest session where hopefully you'll get involved and share some of your experiences. And we're delighted to have Joanne joining us today. She brings over a decade of experience of supporting senior leaders across both the public and private sectors. She launched a business in 2015 and she's built a team dedicated to supporting charity leaders and consultants. And she sits on the advisory board of the Society of Virtual Assistants. It's not going to be about selling services today. It's about sharing those insights and common capacity challenges that charities are facing. So I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Joanne with us today. If you've got any questions for Joanne as the session goes through, feel free to sort of pop your hand up, or you can pop your questions in the chat and we can go through that at the end, whichever you feels most appropriate. But yeah, welcome, Joanne, and over to
Thank
you.
you, Emily. Lovely. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, everybody, for coming along on a really hot day and in half term as well. So I hope I do justice to the time that you're giving me today. And thank you, Emily, and the team for inviting me along to share our experience with you. So as Emily said, I'm Joanne. I run the Indispensary, which is we are a team of virtual assistants. And as Emily said, we primarily work with charities. It's not how we started off our business. I'm from a public sector and private sector background. But when we started looking at who our favourite clients were, we actually realised it was you guys in the charity sector. The people we enjoyed working with most. It was the work we enjoyed doing most. And I'm a charity trustee. My intern at the time was an ambassador, and my other business and marketing lead is a co-founder of a charity in Zambia. So it made absolute sense for us to share our knowledge and expertise and work with charities. So that's how it sort of came about. For anybody that's not using or unable to use camera today, just to let you know, I'm a 50-year-old white female with shoulder length brown hair, wearing a navy blue blouse and sweating slightly. Or we perspire, don't we? We perspire, I'm not sweating. So I want to start with a scenario. It's Tuesday morning, you've got a board report to write for Thursday, tons of unanswered emails from last week, a team member that needs your time to make some decisions before they can move forward with their project, and your own strategic priorities. It's the only thing that you can take forward. Nobody else can actually lead on that. And it's been sitting on your to-do list and just keeps getting added on there and bumped down with other people and other things taking priority. And it's something we see an awful lot of. As charity leaders, you're incredibly compassionate and you tend to put others before yourselves. And often with the people that we work with, we find that they find it really, really difficult to actually put themselves first. And that's what we try to do in working with people, be able to protect their time and enable you to focus on what you need to be doing. So this sort of scenario we see time and time again. And it's not a productivity failure. It's not down to you as individuals. It is a structural issue and we see it all the time in the sector. So what I want to share with you today is some of the issues that people come to us with and how we help solve them. And these are all things that you can actually put in place yourself. As Emily, this is not said, it's not about us, trying to share our services with you today, but these are things that we help people put into place themselves to create that capacity. So obviously I don't need to spell it out. You've got increasing demand, shrinking resources. Getting funding is an absolute nightmare, especially for core costs. Senior leaders, CEOs, trustees, chief execs and senior directors are all absorbing a lot of work. And a lot of that work has no clear owner, and it tends to, what we see is that often falls on your shoulders because there's nobody else that you feel is responsible for it. And that's really tough, absorbing all of that responsibility to get the stuff done. So what we often see is, especially with small charities, there's a very few number of people with a huge work remit and a huge amount of work on their plate. And that often results in burnout, which I'm sure a lot of people have seen, and we've sort of seen with our clients recently. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about, as I've just mentioned, is the hidden sort of time issues. So a lot of that is admin and coordination sitting with the wrong person, tasks that have no processes set around them, and are being reinvented time upon time. A lot of the organisations, when we start working with them, there's no SOPs in place, there's no processes in place, and the leaders are carrying all of that in their heads. Which is, a massive pressure, not only because nobody else knows how to do it, but also there's no backup or resilience there. So one of the first things that we start doing is actually getting processes in place and documenting that. A lot of people shy away from creating SOPs and standard processes because it's just like, oh gosh, it's another admin task to do. But I've actually been using AI to do it. And I'll mention AI later. I know it's a difficult subject, particularly within the sector. But what I've been doing is I've created a tool within my AI that creates and writes the SOPs for me with quite a minimal amount of input. And once those SOPs are in place, it's so much easier for other people to step in. And then you've got that source of truth there if someone does need to pick up a task from you. So it's something worth thinking about if you are taking it all on yourself. Do you have the processes documented anywhere that you would be able to share with somebody? The other area is meetings. We do love meetings, don't we? Meetings for meeting's sake and meetings about setting up meetings. So, looking at your meetings process, can you change your calendar? I've recently changed my calendar so that it doesn't default to 30-minute meetings, it defaults to 20-minute meetings when I create a calendar appointment. And you can do that in Outlook or whatever system that you use. So it then keeps you more to time and you've got a 10-minute breathing space. So many people don't plan in time to work on the outputs of a meeting. Obviously, the best practice is to schedule in time after every meeting to debrief, go to the loo, get a drink, think about who you need to delegate the work from that meeting for. But we don't book that time in. So if you change your meeting settings, that will actually give you a little bit of a buffer to at least have a little bit of a breather instead of you being back to back all day. And also thinking about, does it need to be a meeting? Could it be a phone call? Do you really need all of those people in the room? Everybody's time is so precious and we're very quick to just invite everybody and require everybody to be a meeting when actually it could just be a conversation between two people. So also thinking about, who needs to be there and whose time perhaps could be better spent elsewhere. The other thing we try to implement is meeting agendas. So actually one organisation we've just worked in, they're insisting on a meeting agenda for every single meeting now. So not just board meetings and committee meetings. If you're having a one-to-one with me, I want an agenda. I want to know what you want to talk to me about and I want to know what you want to get out of it. And I will not have that meeting with you unless there is an agenda. That's what this client's just implemented. Feels really tough. Your time is really precious. And again, if at least you know what they want to be talking about, you can be prepared and you can get to the point pretty quickly. So that's something else worth considering. And then I also mentioned AI and automation within meetings. Is there anything that you can use within the tools and the platforms that you're already using that can help facilitate your meetings better? If you're taking a meeting notes, can you use an appropriate tool for that? Can you then set up an automation so the tasks from that go into your task list? It all takes a little bit of time to set up, but once it's set up, you can work so much more effectively if you just manage that piece around meetings. Another element around that is just the systems that you use, particularly with small charities. I often see that people don't have their cloud storage set up properly. They might be just using it on OneDrive from the CEO or founder's Outlook that they set up when they founded the charity. Everybody else is using their own email addresses Nobody has a central resource or place of resource that they can go to get the information that they need. And one of the first things we set up, including trustees, is to have a dedicated charity email account. It's better for governance, it's better for access. And if something goes wrong, you know that for data protection and governance, you can just pull that email account back again. I know it's an extra cost, but things like Google and Outlook, they all have discounted or free, offers for charities. So I really would encourage you, if you're one of those organisations that doesn't have a dedicated email account for everybody and is working through a cloud platform, that you get that in place, because it really does make a huge difference. And then, the last sort of hidden time drain is being consulted on everything when delegation's possible. So, as I mentioned earlier, holding so much stuff in your head and not delegating stuff. Some people are better at delegating than others. It takes practice. But I like to think of it as you're actually empowering somebody by delegating something to them. You're showing them that you trust them. You're showing them that you believe that they can deliver that piece of work. So it's not about, some people feel guilty for giving people things that they feel they should be doing, but actually try and switch that around, and think of it as giving other people the opportunity to own that piece of work, and deliver on it, because people do appreciate being able to take extra responsibility. So just a few things to think about there. Just going to talk a little bit about governance, because it would be remiss to me to sort of not cover governance. And governance just takes up a lot of time, and a lot of people tend to push it again to the bottom of the to-do list as of a bit of a pain, or compliance is a pain, this is going to take me ages. But actually, if you build it into everything that you do, it makes it so much easier. And a lot of that is about making sure that the right systems and processes are in place to start with. So I've got on here about communication, and that might be making sure that between the leader or leaders of the organisation, that you have one-to-ones with the chair. Some organisations are really lucky to have great chair CEO relationships, but we also hear a lot where that relationship is really difficult. So having regular one-to-ones between those key people can really help move things forward. It can help the CEOs and chairs and trustees better understand what is going on the ground in the organisation, in order to make the board meetings flow a lot easier as well. And that doesn't just apply to the top tier of leadership. Senior leaders having one-to-ones with trustees. So where you have larger teams and they've got specific responsibilities, and you have a trustee with the same interests, having one-to-ones to talk about the challenges and the issues that you're facing can really speed along the processes of board meetings and getting things agreed. The other thing that we often see is a lack of task and finish groups or subcommittees. And these are useful even in really, really small organisations. And it just takes the discussion away from the board meeting. Obviously, trustees need a level of information to be able to make the right decisions for the organisation, and they need context, but not to be overloaded. So using task and finish groups for, things that come up at board are like, oh, we could really do with looking into that a bit more, or we could really do with the expertise of this trustee and this senior leader to do that. And introducing task and finish groups, a dedicated start date, dedicated end date, a few meetings to thrash these things out, and then bring the recommendations to the board, can actually then avoid the time and discussion at the board meetings. You do obviously need terms of reference around those, and that the board need to agree that they're, going to take seriously the recommendations from these groups. But that can be a really good way forward of actually streamlining your senior meetings, and helping them to be a lot more efficient. On the same point, in terms of the board meetings, I've put here about making sure that the overall efficiency of the board, and we've talked about cloud storage and making sure people can access what they need to access in good time, but making sure that the papers that are presented to the board are also written in a way that the trustees and chair can work out very quickly what the point is you're trying to make and what is expected from them in reading that paper. So a very small change could just be on the cover paper, just explaining, this paper is for, is it for information? Is it for approval? Is it for a discussion? And just saying what we're looking for is approval of X, Y, Z, and just state it on that front cover, so that trustees can get that information really, really quickly, and know what is expected of them. I think what we see is a lot of leadership teams spend a lot of time and effort putting together these incredible board papers when actually they could be a lot slimmer, take a lot less time to put together, and quicker to come to the conclusions during the meeting themselves. So that's another sort of thing to maybe consider when you're looking at your next set of board papers. Hope that's useful. Right, just moving on to resources and the flexible options. So I'm going to share in a moment a couple of bit of information about a couple of clients that we worked with and how they used flexible resources to understand the roles that they were needing before they actually recruited. And it's really important because there's lots of different types of staffing, whether you use apprentices, whether you use interns, whether you get staff on a fixed term contract, or any other means of resources, is understanding exactly what your organisation needs and what that role's going to look like. And sometimes we see that, charities are really worried about recruiting, understandably, because of the cost involved in recruiting, the time taken in recruiting. And then if you find that you've not got the funding, so much funding is short term or for a short fixed number of years, and you've got no uncertainty on whether you're going to have the money to pay for that role going forwards. So having flexible resources and making sure that you know exactly what the role is, what people need to be doing, what sort of person that you need, and how long that you need them for, to fit your charity's needs. Just doing that before you spend time recruiting, so that you make sure that when you do recruit, you're telling people like Charity Recruit exactly what you need, and that's going to then be a really long-term successful hire. So here's a couple of examples. So Teenage Cancer Trust, their CEO Kate had an EA who'd left, and then she'd had some temps, but she was having a real challenge because the temps kept leaving, which is it's very difficult if you're having somebody that doesn't know how long they're going to be there and they've actually got like a week's notice to leave. And she was having people leave at like a week's notice, and it was just really, made it really, really unstable, especially for her as CEO. So George, her CFO, brought us in to help. And one of the things that we actually did was, work with them for a year, work out what the EA role looked like. They'd got a whole team of EAs, but not to the CEO. What does that role look like? What sort of person do we need in that role? And then when they were in the position, they could approach the recruitment company and actually get exactly what they needed. A lot of EA roles, some of them includes board support, some don't. Do you need someone who can minute take? Do you need somebody who can line manage? There's so many facets to an EA role. And it's just really important that you understand exactly who's going to be doing what. It was similar for Care for the Carers. Jennifer wears a lot of hats. She not only is CEO of Care for the Carers, but she also works for a lot of more national caring organisations. And she wanted to make sure, again, similarly, she needed the support to make sure that she did all of those well. And she needed somebody that could not only work within Care for the Carers, but was really good at stakeholder management. They understood how to speak to people in different situations. She's dealing with people in Parliament and all sorts. So that was a similar sort of situation. And this is why it's really worth putting in the time to make sure that you get that recruit right first time. So talking a little about delegation, I'm doing all right for time here, Emily. This is sort of a matrix which you've probably seen before. It's a 3-column audit. So thinking about, as you're going through your day, what are the tasks you're doing that only you can do? So it needs your specific expertise, your specific position, So these are the things that only you can do. So you literally cannot delegate those. The second one are things that require context from you. So, it might have been an output of a meeting that you went to that you need to then brief somebody on and give that particular piece of work to them. And then there's work that's fully delegable. This is mainly what I mentioned earlier when you get a lot of small charities where the founders and CEOs are holding all of that information in their own heads. But it is actually quite admin based, it's quite process driven, they're repeatable tasks, and these are the things that you should be delegating. If you go back to what I said earlier about writing SOPs, yes, it's a little bit of time consuming to actually write those processes down. But I can share some templates for SOPs if that's helpful, Emily, with the slides and stuff. But there's a lot more that you probably can delegate than you realise. And once you start documenting these things and writing down the steps, it then helps you realise what could actually be automated or what you could use AI for. So it's a really good opportunity as you're creating those SOPs and writing the details down of how you actually deliver those tasks, to identify, what's repetitive, that you'd actually be able to automate. And there's the automation within Microsoft and things like Zapier is just off this scale. It's actually easier to do than you might think as well. So what I want you to do is just think, you might have some things going around in your mind today. Is there one task that you have been doing yourself that you could delegate to either another person in your team, to one of your volunteers, to automation? And then once you start getting into that process of thinking about those things, as you start doing your job, you'll sort of come across more ideas and think, oh, I could automate that as well, and I could automate that as well. So just have a think today whether there's something that you can do. So we're going to wrap it up there because I'm 25 past 1. I think we're good for time, Emily. I want to offer some slots for any of you. If you want to pick my brains, as I say, we work with primarily CEOs and boards. But I've opened up some slots if you just want to pick my brains on this is what we're doing, could we do it better, or I don't know where to start. Feel free to book in a slot. We've got 5 of those available, and we'll share this obviously afterwards as well. If you just want to pick my brains for half an hour, I'm very happy just to share what our experience and see if we can sort of help some of you just have a bit more time for yourselves, really.
That's really generous. Thank you. I'm sure many of them will maybe take you up on that. Has anybody got any questions at this stage for Joanne whilst we've still got her here? That it was a sort of whistle-stop tour of things that you can do. But yeah, we'd love to take your questions if anybody has anything they'd like to put to Joanne.
Yes, I would.
Excellent.
Go for it, Michelle.
Yes. Jo, thank you. That was really, really interesting. I've worked for the melanoma. I've been the CEO of the Melanoma Fund for over a decade now, and there's always new things to learn. I think my question is that a lot of people are surprised that I'm a one-man band, so I do everything myself, from fundraising to everything. And
all hail.
Michelle. It's a bloody miracle, excuse my French, that I haven't had burnout, but I'm very passionate about what I do. My point is, obviously, I can do everything, and I do keep a lot in my head, and you were saying that, and I learned the capacity to do that. But the one thing I find really difficult, and I'm sure other people will as well, is the fundraising aspect, because that takes a lot of time, dedication. You can't just bring something to do it sporadically, seasonally. It has to be done. How do small charities cope now, even more so than ever before, where AI has taken over? So when fundraisers do work for larger charities, they just get straight in onto the grants before you can even have a chance. What is the secret? Just a couple of things that I could say, right, I'm going to use that.
Yeah, so a couple of things, as you say, Michelle. So first is a bid library. If you don't have a bid library, very simply, a folder on your drive with all your past bids, successful and unsuccessful. and all your key information, your up-to-date accounts, all the links to the website, etc., etc., etc. And you can obviously, depending on whether you've got not including sensitive information, use AI to create that for you. So so we have clients, just for as an example, there's typical questions, or along the most bids have got similar sort of questions in. So we've got different formats of each of the answers, like a 20-word version, a 50-word version, a 200-word version, and just having all of that in one place so that it's quicker to do is one of it. So we do see that people don't have all of that information in one place that they can just copy paste, and then edit. So that's one. And you mentioned, Michelle, AI. So I joined a webinar, and I can't remember who it was with recently. It was one of the big foundations, and they said that they were finding that they're being inundated with more applications for the funding because smaller charities were now using AI.
Yeah.
So actually, I think it is an opportunity for smaller charities to be able to bid for things that they wouldn't have had the time to bid for before, notwithstanding making sure that the quality is there. There's still obviously that time needed for the quality, but actually with the right AI tools, the quality is pretty good. I've just moved from ChatGPT to Claude, and it's so much better. It's just so much better. So it's playing but there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, part of me, Michelle, I get a bit upset about people being angry about AI, and I think, when I was back in the old days, I would go to the library and copy stuff out of a book. What's the difference?
Absolutely, and it's the way you use it as well. It's the way you prompt it, use it, and we're becoming more intelligent around that. So it's an evolution, really.
Exactly, and it's using it cleverly, making sure you prompt it well. But a lot of it now, especially Claude, it asks you the questions, and you can, it's phenomenal. So we use it for a lot. So I think making use of those tools, create the bid library, sensitively put information into AI that you're, not sensitive stuff, obviously, to help it speed up those applications.
Or you actually use the settings to ensure that you don't allow it to share your information with everybody else, so not making the so there is
training. Yeah. And the interesting thing is that ChatGPT, you have to turn on the settings for it not to use your information for training. Yes. Claude, the setting is set to not allow it as default. So Claude already is more ethical than ChatGPT. But let's not get into ethics. We don't have the time for AI ethics.
No.
We've done a full webinar on using AI within funding applications and grant bids, Michelle. So if you look on our YouTube channel, you'll be able to have a look. But what I would say about that is we are going to have one in the next couple of months, because I think we did that at the end of last year. And obviously there's been a lot of development within AI in that time. So whilst it was relevant at the time, there may be things that have progressed, but certainly a good sort of starting point and for you from there.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from anybody else? Thanks, Michelle.
Great question. Thanks, Michelle.
Sorry, I just popped one in the chat.
I missed that.
I had to take a call midway through the presentation. Is there any chance that we'll get a recording on the slides?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll send round tomorrow the copy of the recording and Joanne's slides from today as well.
Really appreciate it.
And it'll be available on the YouTube channel also.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jane.
Thanks, Jane. Any other questions whilst we've got Joanne here? I know we've got a couple of minutes left if there is anything else. Otherwise, Joanne's got her contact details there on the screen to contact her immediately, but they will be coming through in the pack tomorrow as well.
And do take advantage to book that call if you want to just chat anything over, whether it's 5 minutes, half an hour, just take advantage of that.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Joanne. And obviously, thanks
You're
to
welcome.
all who have attended today. I
Yeah,
think,
thank you so much.
having those questions at the end always just helps that little bit more as well, doesn't it? So, as I said, I'll send around the recording and the slides tomorrow. And just a quick reminder from us at Charity Recruit, we do work with charities across leadership, operations, fundraising, HR positions. So, if there's any way we can support your organisation with recruitment, please do get in touch. And yeah, thanks again, everybody, for your time, and hope to see you at one of our future boardrooms.